Hello everyone, welcome to FireShark. In this video, we'll be talking about ransomware. Now, in the modern times, all our devices are filled with data. In fact, our life revolves around data. We have different kinds of data like photos, music, videos, games, emails, health data, financial data, payment information, cryptocurrencies, and a lot more. We are so much dependent on this data that we cannot imagine a life without it. As the technology is evolving, so are the threats. One such threat is a ransomware. So, this is a malicious software which can be installed on a system, maybe via a phishing email, maybe via some software that we downloaded thinking it to be free, maybe a pirated game, maybe some pirated movie that we downloaded, and so on. So, it could be hiding behind that genuine looking, that innocent looking file, but behind it, that ransomware is doing its job. What it does is it will encrypt all your files. It will infect all those files and encrypt them with a key such that you're not able to access them anymore. And to free your system, you will have to pay a ransom. So the malicious hacker who has encrypted your system through this ransomware will demand some money in exchange for that key. So if you want to get that key to decrypt your system, you'll have to pay the hacker some money. But even if you do pay him, it is up to him. So there is no guarantee that you will be getting your system decrypted or not. He may just choose to ignore it, he may just choose to destroy your files. But also, he may just decrypt it. So that is entirely dependent on the hacker, and you have no say on that. So essentially, a ransomware is a type of malware from cryptovirology that threatens to publish the victim's personal data or permanently block access to it unless a ransom is paid. While some principal ransomware may lock the system without damaging any files, more advanced malware uses a technique called cryptoviral extortion. It encrypts the victim's files, making them inaccessible, and demands a ransom payment to decrypt them. In a proper implemented cryptoviral extortion attack, recovering the files without the decryption key is an intractable problem and difficult to trace digital currencies such as PaySafeCard or Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies which are used for the ransoms, making tracing and prosecuting the perpetrators difficult. Ransomware attacks are typically carried out using a Trojan disguised as a legitimate file that the user is tricked into downloading or opening while when it arrives as an email attachment. However, one high profile example, the WannaCry worm, traveled automatically between computers without user interaction. Now, how does this play out? So, the attacker generates a key pair and places the corresponding public key in the malware. The malware is then released and installed in the system. To carry out the cryptoviral extortion attack, the malware generates a random symmetric key and encrypts the victim's data with it. It uses the public key in the malware to encrypt the symmetric key. This is known as hybrid encryption, and it results in a small asymmetric ciphertext as well as a symmetric ciphertext of the victim's data. It zeroizes the symmetric key and the original plain text data to prevent recovery. It puts up a message to the user that includes the asymmetric ciphertext and how to pay the ransom. The victim sends the asymmetric ciphertext and e-money to the attacker. And lastly, the attacker receives the payment, deciphers the asymmetric ciphertext with the attacker's private key, and sends the symmetric key to the victim. The victim deciphers the encrypted data with the needed symmetric key and thereby completing the cryptovirology attack. Now, in this scenario, the attacker never reveals his private key to the victim. He can redo this attack eventually. If the victim does not clean his system, if the malware was not found or deleted, the system can be infected with the same ransomware and the victim will have to go through that process again. He may have to pay that ransom again. So he is at the mercy of the attacker. Now there are some prevention steps that we can take. So while recovery from a ransomware attack is long and cannot be guaranteed, prevention is fairly simple and consists of straightforward steps, such as never click on unsafe links. We should always verify the links that we are clicking. We should see a preview maybe or open them in a sandbox environment. But the best case is never opening unknown links. If some random person, if a stranger is sending you some links, do not open them. Delete them immediately. Avoid disclosing personal information, and this goes without saying. Never reveal your personal information to anybody, especially to strangers or on public platforms, because it can be misused into getting access to your system. Use a trusted anti-malware software. You need to have a up-to-date malware software which is capable of detecting ransomware specifically. Because if it is not able to detect ransomwares, your system might be infected in the future and you may not be able to recover that data. Never use unknown USB drives or other such media. There are threats associated with USB drives especially, but other removable media as well, like CD-ROMs, floppy disks, and so on. We should never use untrusted and unknown USB disks. So if you see some lying around, do not be tempted to plug them into your system. They might be carrying some malware. Keep programs and operating systems up to date. Companies and the program developers, they keep releasing updates to fix some vulnerabilities in their systems. So we should keep our systems up to date so as to keep our systems safe from the known vulnerabilities that are ever evolving. Use only trusted download sources. Never try to download some free games thinking that they are free, but in fact they can be harboring malicious softwares behind them, which are a way for the hacker to reach your systems directly without you ever knowing. Use VPN services on public networks so that your data is encrypted on the public channel and nobody can see whatever you're doing. This essentially also prevents man-in-the-middle attacks. And regularly back up your important data. Because you never know when a ransomware attack might hit you, you should always have some backups to go back to. But if you somehow did get infected with a ransomware and your files were encrypted, recovery from ransomware is a long, drawn process with no guarantees of a full recovery. It also depends on various factors such as the organization's preparedness, policies, risk management, among other things. Some steps that we can take to recover our data include: isolate and contain the ransomware. When you found out that your files have been encrypted, you should isolate your system so that it is not able to spread on the network to other devices. Isolate it, cut it off the network, and try to contain the malware. Make a copy of the data, even if it is infected, and try to brute force the decryption in a sandbox. It is good to make a copy of it because if you do it on the original data, you might accidentally delete or damage your own files. So having a copy, even if it is encrypted, even if it is infected, you can take a copy of it and try to brute force it at this, and do this in a sandbox environment where there is no network connectivity and you can control the environment so that the malware cannot communicate with the hacker. And try to brute force, try to hit and try different keys in order to decrypt your system. If that is not working, you should always try to restore data from an earlier backup after thorough examination. You should thoroughly examine your backup because the malware might have infected your system prior to your knowledge in a previous backup. So the malware could be dormant in a backup, so you should thoroughly examine it before restoring it. Don't pay the ransom amount. If available, avail ransomware insurance. You should never pay the ransom amount yourself because paying the ransom is not a guarantee that your system will be decrypted. The attacker could just deny giving you the key or could still damage your data or leak your data. So it is better to not pay it and try to find some other way. If you have insurance for ransomware, you should avail that because that is a safer bet. Do deep scans and investigations on the rest of the systems. Even if you did manage to contain your system where the ransomware was infected, you should also examine the other systems to find that maybe some vulnerabilities exist over there or some files might have been leaked to other systems on the network. In this way, we can still prepare for a ransomware, and even if we do get infected with a ransomware, can take certain steps in order to fight back.